And now, back to the WJZ First Alert Hurricane Season Special.
Before the official naming of storms in 1952, Maryland had hurricanes and storms hit. Thanks to the record keeping of the National Weather Service and NOAA, we're able to look back on those storms who made their mark on the state we call home. Starting back in the 1800s, in 1878 to be specific, a Category 2 unnamed storm hit Baltimore and the surrounding regions, causing significant damage. This was the strongest storm to ever hit this region since record keeping began in 1851. In 1933, the Chesapeake Bay hurricane, known for its strong winds, caused a total of 18 deaths and $79 million in damages. This storm caused the highest tides ever recorded from a storm surge. In 1954, in October, HAZEL made its impact. Although this was not a hurricane, it did cause strong winds, so strong that the records still hold today. There were 3 deaths in the district, 13 in Virginia, 6 in Maryland, and many other people were injured. Over $500,000 in damages occurred in the district, with about $40 million in damages to Maryland and Virginia. Historical database shows that this storm was already extratropical, and why it's not considered a hurricane when it moved through the area. Moving now to 1955 with a double hitter, Maryland got hit with 2 hurricanes only 5 days apart. First up, Connie. The eye of Connie moved across the Chesapeake Bay and across Baltimore into Pennsylvania. Connie dropped as much as 9.5 inches of rain in Prince George's County, and the storm's rainfall produced flooding across Frederick County. Rains produced by Connie saturated the soil and set the stage for the devastating floods to come just 5 days later, thanks to Hurricane Diane. 16 people lost their lives in this storm. In total, damages of $4 million just in the state of Maryland. Moving to 1972, Agnes. This one is notable and known as one of the costliest natural disasters in U.S. history, with $2.1 billion in damages. A few years later, in 1979, David made its mark. Hurricane David spawned 8 tornadoes across the greater Washington metro area, and the strongest tornado was an F3 in Fairfax County. Now into the 2000s, 2003, Isabel hit, one of the most significant tropical cyclones to affect the Chesapeake Bay region since Hurricane Hazel in 1954. This one, in particular, will be remembered for the very large field of tropical storm force winds, which caused a great deal of tree damage. The extensive flash flooding at the peak of this storm, well over 2 million people without power. Isabel was very costly. Now moving to 2004, just a year later, the remnants of Ivan spawned an outbreak of 117 tornadoes over a 3-day period in the United States, including 6 in Maryland. 12 people were injured in this. Locally, Ivan will be remembered for producing extensive tree damage due to its strong gusty winds and for the heavy rainfall. This resulted in about 850,000 power outages in Maryland and the District of Columbia. Now, the early estimates of this storm topped at around $13 million in both northern Virginia, central and southern portions of Maryland. Now coming towards the end of the span here of named storms to impact the state, 2011, Irene, in terms of rainfall, had a swath of 5 to 10 inches in total, and this was reported to be the worst of the storm track. Communities east of Baltimore within that area and between the Blue Ridge Interstate 95, rainfall totals generally fell between 2 and 4 inches. Now, of course, we also have to mention Superstorm Sandy, but this was not considered a hurricane, but the impacts were felt throughout the Northeast and the Midwest.
The WJZ First Alert Hurricane Season Special will be right back.